Next up, Brian, the embryonic robot. I'd like to see him do his top 5 hard rock albums in his collection. So this would be no self-loathing emo bands or anything like that. You're not going to be drinking Cosmopolitans when you're listening to this. Hard rock albums. Let's see it. You can do it, Brian. I know you can, buddy.
Hello. Oh my God, who left all of these records here? What is happening? Now I'm gonna have to go and put these away. I don't know how they got here. Ugh. MC5. The Doors. Ian Hunter, whatever. I'll put them over here. And I'm going to have to put them away. I'm sorry about that. So, this is what we would call a command performance from Gary at Physical Format Rock and Roll. His 20 video challenge for 20 different channels. And I got selected to present my 5 favorite hard rock records, with the proviso that I don't include any of that, what was it called? Emo nonsense or emo garbage? Technically speaking, I'm not sure I have any emo. I'm going to have to check that. So, 5 hard rock records. And this was hard to do, let's be honest. So, I will say that if I did this maybe next month, I might change my mind. But I did this quickly. I didn't overthink it. I chose 5 that I think are favorite records of mine that fit into the hard rock genre. So, let's start with number 5. And I picked the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Are you experienced? Yeah, this is a not an original. It's an early 1970s Canadian pressing. This sounds pretty darn good. Of course, it has Purple Haze, which is probably my favorite Jimi Hendrix track, but it's a little too short. That song should be 2 or 3 times as long as it is. Manic Depression, Hey Joe, Are You Experienced? Foxy Lady, The Wind Cries Mary. This is excellent. This is an excellent record. And I was not old enough to be aware of this record, but when I heard it, I was kind of blown away. Even though I'd heard some of the songs on the radio by then, but hearing the whole thing was pretty darn cool. So, that's number 5. Number 4, I almost chose a different record from this band, but ultimately I ended up choosing this one from AC/DC called, well, do you call it Power Age or Power Age? I've heard both. For years I thought it was Power Age, and I heard someone say Power Age, and I thought, what is that person saying? Also, I think the only AC/DC record not to have the standard logo that we're used to. So I was considering Back in Black because, I'm not as old as you might think I am. And although I'd heard lots of AC/DC songs before Back in Black came out, that one was the first one I owned. I will admit it. And I was really captivated by it. But I think this is a little bit better. So I'm going to put that as number 4 on my hard rock record list. Number 3, I changed my mind many times, and I know that number 3 is going to be a record from the band called Rush. Now, of course, I'm Canadian. I've lived in Canada all my life, and I think it's fair to say that it's part of our social contract. If you live in Canada, you have to have either a Rush record or a Rush CD, even a cassette. Maybe a t-shirt would work, but you have to have something by Rush. And so when I was thinking about that, I had a hard time deciding which Rush record to choose. So I originally thought I'm going to choose Moving Pictures because I think at the end of the day, this is probably my favorite Rush record. But it maybe has a little less of that hard rock sound that we know from earlier Rush. So I think if I were to be forced to choose, I would say it's going to be a toss-up between 2112 or maybe the dark horse in the race, A Farewell to Kings. So let's just say number 3 is a record from Rush, and I'm not exactly sure which one. Okay, number 2. And again, this is a case where I debated for a while getting the right record from this band, but I decided, and I'm going to show you the box set for this, the Super Deluxe box set for Paranoid from Black Sabbath. I think Measure for Measure, this is probably my favorite one. Now, the first one I've had for forever, and even my friends had it when I was a kid, so I listened to it many, many times. I think it's a monumental, important record, and I almost chose it, But I went with this one instead. I really love the track War Pigs. Paranoid is great. I will say, though, that there's one song in here that I think is kind of infantile, and that's Iron Man. So I don't think that's great, but this is a cool box set. And that will be number 2, with the note that I almost chose a different record from Black Sabbath. And number 1, I've talked about this band before because I did a ranking for Steve at All the World's a Stage. Many people did a ranking of Led Zeppelin records, and in that ranking, I put Led Zeppelin 4 as number 1. And I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but it's always been a toss-up for me between this record and Houses of the Holy. And it used to be Houses of the Holy was my favorite record of all time from them, but I think by and large, I like this one better. And I will say that maybe Stairway to Heaven hasn't aged as well as it could have, but I think this record, all in all, is a solid record. And, When the Levee Breaks, Four Sticks, great stuff there. So I'm going to say this is my favorite hard rock record of all time. Maybe. Try me again next week. I am really looking forward to the rest of these videos in response to Gary's challenge, his command performance, his directives that we all create videos on specific and personalized topics, which is kind of cool. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.